associated with 46 mental factors, i.e., excluding feeling, rapture, hate, envy, stinginess and worry from the 52 mental factors. It is partially associated. Dissociation. Here body consciousness, which is not associated, is included. The rest is clear from the chart. Conditioned by 6 bases. Contact is a part of the mental formation aggregate which is associated with the 89 types of consciousness. Thus it is associated with the mental formation aggregate in partial association. The dissociation is the same as the mental aggregates. Fine material becoming includes both mentality and materiality and, therefore, there is no association. Also there is no dissociation from the aggregates and from the bases. But since nose consciousness, tongue consciousness and body consciousness are absent in this becoming, the materiality and mentahty concerned with it are dissociated from these 3 consciousness elements. Immaterial becoming consists of the 4 mental aggregates and, therefore, there is no association. But it is dissociated from matter aggregate and from the gross bases. And since this becoming comes under mind consciousness and cognizable elements, these are excluded in the dissociation from the elements. Partial dissociation is clear from the chart. Association. Road to psychic power consists of mental formation and consciousness aggregates and, therefore, it is associated with the remaining mental aggregates, i.e., feeling and perception aggregates. Since consciousness is here included, it is not associated with the base and with the element. And because intention, energy and wisdom mental factors are its constituents, these are excluded and, therefore, it is associated with the remaining 33 mental factors in partial association. Dissociation. Since it is mentality, it is dissociated from materiality and, excluding mind consciousness and cognizable elements, from the remaining 16 elements. It is also dissociated from the 16 subtle physical states and nibbana in partial dissociation. With jhana, the 5 factors come under feeling and mental formation aggregate and, therefore, it is associated with perception and consciousness aggregates, with mind base and with mind consciousness element. In partial association it is also associated with mental formation aggregate and, excluding the 5 jhanic factors, with the remaining 33 mental factors. As for partial dissociation, this is clear from the chart. Decision, which comes under mental formation aggregate, is associated with 78 types of consciousness exclusive of doubt consciousness and 2 by 5 sense consciousness. Therefore it is associated with the remaining 3 mental aggregates, with mind base and with mind element and mind consciousness element, but not with the 5 sense consciousness elements. And, since it is a part of mental formation aggregate, in partial association it is associated with that aggregate and with 50 mental factors exclusive of doubt with which it is not associated. It is dissociated from 15 elements, i.e., the 10 gross elements and the 5 sense consciousness elements. Association. States associated with pleasant feeling comprise the remaining 3 mental aggregates exclusive of feeling aggregate and are, therefore, associated with feeling aggregate. Since consciousness is included, they are definitely not associated with the base and with the element. In partial association, it is associated with 63 kinds of pleasant feeling. Dissociation. The dissociated elements are those that are not associated with the mentality under inquiry. This will be made clear. States associated with pleasant feeling include the 3 elements, body consciousness, mind consciousness and cognizable elements. But there is only partial dissociation from cognizable element and, therefore, excluding body consciousness and mind consciousness elements, they are dissociated from the remaining elements. With states associated with feeling that is neither painful nor pleasant, the only thing to be noted is that they are partially associated with the 55 kinds of indifferent feeling. As stated in the case of indifference faculty above, these states are dissociated from body consciousness but not from the remaining 6 consciousness elements with which they are associated. Resultant states consist of the 4 mental aggregates and, therefore there is no association. They are dissociated only from materiality. Association. States which are neither resultant nor producing resultant states consist of both the 4 mental aggregates and materiality and, therefore, there is no association. Dissociation. Because materiality is included in these states, there is no dissociation from the aggregate and from the base. But with regard to the dissociation from the element, since these states consist of inoperative consciousness and materiality, they are dissociated only from the 5 sense consciousness elements. Again, because materiality is included, there is no partial dissociation. States which are not acquired by clinging and not favorable to clinging consist of both the 4 mental aggregates and nibbana and. Therefore, as in the above, there is no association and also no dissociation from the aggregate and from the base. But with regard to the dissociation from the element, since these states come under mind consciousness element, the latter is excluded in dissociation and they are dissociated from the remaining 6 consciousness elements. And because nibbana is included, there is no partial dissociation. Association. States with applied thought and sustained thought consist of the 55 types of consciousness associated with these 2 thoughts and, excluding them, the 50 mental factors. These belong to the 4 mental aggregates and, therefore, there can be no association. But because applied thought and sustained thought, which are part of mental formation aggregate, are not included in these states, the latter is associated with them. Thus there is partial association with mental formation aggregate and with applied thought and sustained thought. Dissociation. The 5 sense consciousness elements are not associated with applied thought and sustained thought and, therefore, they are included in dissociation. There is no difference from the above with regard to partial dissociation. With states without applied thought but with sustained thought, the latter is excluded and. Therefore, as in the above, there is partial association with mental formation aggregate and with sustained thought. The only difference with regard to dissociation is that mind consciousness element which is associated with these states is excluded. States without applied thought and sustained thought consist of the 4 mental aggregates, materiality and nibbana and, therefore, there is no association. Also, there is no dissociation from the aggregate and from the base but only from mind element which is not associated with these states. There is no partial dissociation. States which are mental factors consist of the 3 mental factor aggregates and, therefore, they are associated with consciousness aggregate, with mind base and with 7 consciousness elements. Since all the 52 mental factors are included, there is no partial association. The aggregates, bases and elements which are materiality, are included in dissociation. As shown in the chart, the 16 subtle physical states and nibbana are included in partial dissociation. Note: the method, as explained above, can be applied to all the remaining states of inquiry of this chapter. How to read the chart. Matter aggregate and feeling aggregate are taken for illustration. Matter aggregate. With how many aggregates, with how many bases and with how many elements is matter aggregate associated? With none. From how many is it dissociated? It is dissociated from 4 aggregates, from 1 base and from 7 elements. Partially dissociated from 1 base and from 1 element. Feeling aggregate. With how many aggregates, with how many bases and with how many elements is feeling aggregate associated? It is associated with 3 aggregates with 1 base and with 7 elements. From how many is it dissociated? It is dissociated from 1 aggregate, from 10 bases and from 10 elements. Partially dissociated from 1 base and from 1 element. The kinds of answers. There are 22 kinds of answers. Since all the 250 states of inquiry dealt with in this chapter cannot be included in the chart, only those with a different answer are given. The numbers of the states of inquiry having the same answer are given in brackets along with the questions. Question numbers.